why supervising dogs and kids doesn't work. All the way from America, we got Robin Bennett.
Thank you very much.
Tell us a little bit about that. How come you came to that conclusion?
Well, it was sort of a pet peeve of mine that dog trainers and any pet professional really all the time tells owners, supervise your dog, supervise your dog, supervise your dog. And that is good advice. The problem is parents have no idea what they're supervising. Yeah. And so my frustration was, at the time I wrote the blog, just that frustration of saying we're telling people to supervise, and yet parents are supervising. They just have no idea what they're looking at. So they don't have the benefit of understanding canine body language. So we need to do more than just say supervise your dog.
I must admit I was pretty shocked to see the comment you made here that, whilst the parents are watching, they're standing within 3 feet of the child and the child gets bitten.
Right.
That's
and
incredible.
over and over that would happen when I would do consults for dogs who are coming in for a bite incident. And then the parent would walk me through what happened. And every single time you could see the series of events unfolding as the owner or as the parent explained what happened. And yet they had no idea it was going to come. But as soon as they started the dialogue, they would talk about the dog would get stiff and he didn't seem to like it. And then my child took one more step and then the dog snapped. So it was just, I don't think pet professionals are doing all they can to perhaps help educate the owners. An analogy I often like to use is it would be the equivalent of me. This actually happened to me. My father was in the hospital and the nurses left the room and basically said, just keep an eye on him. Let us know if there's any problems. And he was in ICU. So there was all kinds of things hanging off of him and machines and monitors. And so sure, I was supervising my father. I had no idea what I was watching.
Exactly.
So it's sort of that same thing. We have to give some education with that advice to supervise.
Your blog has struck a chord with a lot of people in Australia because at the moment there's a definite push by government authorities to crack down on dog breeds and try and blame a particular dog type. But of course, what you're now saying is it's more of the body language of the canine overall rather than a particular type of dog.
Right. And there's definitely breed characteristics, but overall, every breed can bite. Every breed, can get its situations that are not good for the dog or for the person. I think breed bans really give the community a sense of safety that's completely false. Because you can ban those breeds, but that doesn't mean that you don't have other dogs that have the same propensity to bite as what somebody might think a certain breed has. The key that we should be focusing on is educating people to understand how to read dog body language. And the great thing is it's not rocket science. I mean, there's a lot to it, but there's some really simple things that every owner can learn that would make life better for dogs and for the people that interact with them and love them.
So your top tips, Robin, what are they?
A lot of them are looking for loose versus stiffness in a dog. So happy dogs, comfortable dogs have loose, wiggly body language. So there's a lot of curves in their bodies. One of the very simplest thing I tell people to look for is any kind of stiffening or freezing. And one that's really obvious is a dog that goes from an open mouth to a closed mouth. It sounds so simple, and it really is, and it's very easy to see. But when you have a dog out who's panting and someone approaches them and the dog closes its mouth, that's sometimes the very first signal that you'll see that the dog is saying, not totally sure about the situation. If you give him a couple minutes, he may open his mouth and start panting again. But if he doesn't, then that's a clue to say he's a little uncomfortable. So that's one of the biggest ones I would say to look for. And then other stress signals that are pretty easy for owners to see, yawning. So a dog that yawns, not just because he woke up, but he's just sitting around, something's going on, and he starts seeing him yawn. That's a stress signal of the dog saying, I'm a little uncomfortable. And then lip licking is another one. So a dog that lips its licks outside the context of eating, obviously.
And the half moon eye, I see you've mentioned that. Now, that doesn't get a lot of attention.
Well, that's in the photo, isn't it, of the 3 little kids? They all look really happy.
Yes.
And the dog's
The
going,
half
well,
moon
what
eye,
the...
if you understand the way a dog's eye is, it's not like a person's eye where you can see the white of the eye. Most breeds, you can't see that at all unless the dog is stressed. And what happens with the half moon eye is the dog's head is stiff, but their eyes are still moving. And if you start seeing the whites of a dog's eyes repeatedly, that's a dog that's under some type of stress. And again, it's an easy thing to see. Once you start to watch your dog, you'll start to recognize those signals and can help to intervene when there's something that might be making the dog uncomfortable.
That's right. And speaking of uncomfortable, there are a lot of people that seem to want to push their kids onto dogs and saying, look, it's okay, it's okay. That too, misguided socialization attempts, perhaps.
Right. And we always tell people, ask the owner for permission to pet the dog and then ask the dog. And if the dog says no, and a no would be the dog backs up, the dog doesn't come forward, the dog shows some of those stress signals, then just leave the dog alone. So that's if you're meeting a dog. In terms of interacting with a dog, you see all kinds of videos on YouTube where obviously someone is there videotaping really not very good interactions with a dog and a child. And just because a dog will tolerate that doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. The problem is with parents especially, we see the intention of the child, and the child means no harm. They're having fun. They're trying to show love to their dog, but the dog doesn't recognize good intentions. So we have to intervene to say, I know you mean well, but this isn't the way you should treat a dog.
So, Robin, in your view, who and where should this education of adults, of parents, be happening? I mean, in the States, do they teach this at parent-teacher nights, or, who's doing the teaching?
Well, I wish they would teach it at parent-teacher night. My personal view is that any pet professional should take this upon themselves as their responsibility to educate the public, because they're the ones that are running into the pet owning population. So doesn't matter whether you're a trainer, a groomer, a veterinarian, a shelter worker. If you're in a profession where you're talking to owners of dogs, I think you should be taking it upon yourself to educate those owners.
Well, right now,
in my own area where I do dog training, if I was invited to a school to do a career day presentation, they were getting dog safety and career day. If they wanted me to come to a park to do something on off-leash dog play, I'm also going to talk about, safe bite prevention information. So I would just incorporate it into anything that I have the opportunity to talk to owners about.
Well, I think that right now you've been speaking to an awful lot of people in all of those industries in Australia, but it always helps to be reminded that this is an ongoing thing. There's you don't just do it once and forget about it. So, Robin, thank you so very, very much. I could talk with you for hours. Perhaps we can catch up another time.
That would be wonderful. Thanks.
That was Robin Bennett, certified professional dog trainer, author, consultant, and experts on dogs. And you can check out that story and more on robinbennett.com.